My name is Cassy Summers. Welcome to the Curious Universe podcast. Hello. How are you doing today? If no one's asked you that yet, I'm asking you, how are you doing today? How's it going? I want to talk about something kind of that's been in my awareness the last week, is where some people, they choose based on avoiding or leaving or getting rid of the heaviness rather than choosing what's light. I thought we could curiously explore that a little bit today and see in your universe, how do you make choices and what are you aware of in this area? When I first came to learn the tools of access consciousness, which is what we do on this show, we're always talking access consciousness stuff. One of the main tools that I learned is that which is true for you will give you a sense of lightness. And that which is not true for you, there could be some truth, but there's a lie in there. You're going to have a sense of heaviness. Okay. So I thought this was one of the most amazing tools. I felt like I had the lie detector I always wanted in my life. I could know if someone was saying something to me, if it was getting heavy, I could know that there's either they're lying or there's just a lie in there for me, or I'm connected to a lie. I felt like so empowered with this tool. And I started to choose from what is light in my world. And so when you choose from the lightness, what you're actually doing is every choice you make creates more lightness. Okay. So maybe you have a sense of what you would like your life to be like in like 2 years from now. Okay. Hopefully it's lighter than it is now. Hopefully we're always expanding into more lightness, more space, more possibility. And so you get the sense of, oh, I would love to, maybe travel more or have more, adventures with my body or more time with my partner or get a partner. I mean, whatever that is for you. So you have a sense of lightness. That just means that it's true for you. This is what you truly desire in your life. Doesn't mean it's right. Just means that it's true for you. Okay. So then if you have a sense of the life that you'd like to have, and you're presented every day continuously with a multitude of choices, right? When you follow the lightness, even if it seems like, how could this choice be connected to, more space for me, more time with my body, even though it might be like picking up a new project and you're like, this doesn't make any sense. If you choose that which is light, you're going to create a lighter and lighter future. You generate this in your life and your whole life becomes lighter and lighter. Now, what I see other people do is they go, oh, that's heavy, so I'm not going to choose it. This is what I want to talk about today. And if you're one of those people, I might be pushing some of your buttons, and I do it out of total caring and total kindness, and in the hopes that you'd be willing to look at another possibility. Now, if you don't want to look at another possibility, you might as well turn this off right now, and that's okay. I will not take personal offense to it, and we all just gotta, choose what's light for us. So now the heaviness factor. So if you're choosing avoidance of that which is heavy, okay, see the difference? So I'm going to choose this because it's light. This is the lightest of all the choices. Maybe I have 25 choices right now, and this one's the lightest. I'm going to choose the lightest. Now, let's say you have like 2 choices. I mean, do we ever really have 2 choices? But sometimes it feels like we have like stay in this relationship, leave this relationship, stay in this job, leave this job, right? We feel like often we have like two choices. So now if you're like, okay, if I stay in this job, it's really heavy, I'm going to just leave this job. There is a universe of information that you're missing by choosing from avoiding that which you have decided is heavy. Heavy doesn't mean it's wrong. Heavy doesn't mean don't choose it. Heavy doesn't mean stop sign. Heavy means that there is a lie in there. And so if you're willing to get curious and ask the question, what is the heaviness, spoken or unspoken? What's the heaviness here? What's the lie here? What am I aware of here? Sometimes the heaviness is actually the awareness of like this big glop of crap that we're going to have to move through, that's going to bring us to a greater sense of lightness once you move through it. There's a beauty and a gift in actually going through that heaviness, if in the case that this is the case. Heaviness could mean a million things. The heaviness could mean, oh my God, if I go on this trip, then my plane's going to crash. But if you're not willing to ask the question, you don't actually get clarity. You're choosing based on heaviness, which means that you're putting more value on heaviness, which means that you're what? Attracting more of. What are you attracting more of? Heaviness in your life. That's right. If you're choosing based on the lightness, you would choose not to go on that trip because it's lighter to stay home. It's lighter to go on a different trip. It's lighter to do this. Okay. And if you get this, so here's some like questions you can explore in the heaviness. So one question that I love, it's one of my favorite, is to ask, is this the change I've been looking for showing up in a totally different way? Yeah. So you perceive all this heaviness and you're like, maybe you don't want to go. Maybe you don't want to do it. Maybe you're like, ugh, is this the change I've been asking for showing up in a totally different way? And for me, if I get a yes on that, I don't care how heavy it is, I am going head on into that heaviness and I will meet it and I'll be present with it and I will get through because I'm here for the change. I'm here for the possibility and I am not going to let a little bit of heaviness keep me from all that I could have this lifetime. So what questions? So yeah, what other questions could you ask when you're looking at this? Light and heavy doesn't mean right or wrong, stop and go. Okay. It's lightness. There's something true there for you. Heaviness means there's something not true there for you. The heaviness could be actually a point of view that you bought about someone. Let's take relationship. Let's say, well, it's heavy to stay with my partner. Well, maybe it's because you're stuck in a fixed point of view about them, that they're never going to change or they're never going to accept you or they're never. If you clear out all those presumptive realities that you have about your partner and then suddenly ask the question, wow, you know what? There's like the heaviness here is the sledge that we're going to have to work through. But the possibility beyond the sledge is greater than I ever imagined possible. And then you still have choice. You can still be like, you know what? I perceive that, but I'm done. I'm going to choose what would be the lightest possibility for me. And then you go and choose the lightest possibility for you. That's choosing from lightness, not choosing against heaviness. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you get what I'm following? What I'm putting down here? So where have you been choosing against or in avoidance of heaviness rather than from the awareness of choice for possibility? The lightness will lead you. It will lead you to the greatest possibility. But that doesn't mean that we avoid the heaviness. It doesn't mean that you run away if something shows up heavy. I've had some of the most like dynamically life-changing classes that I've been to. It was so heavy when I tapped into that class. Like I wanted to pass out or vomit. So then I asked them questions. What is this? What do I do with it? All this awareness started to pour out. And I was like, wow, it's like I'm going to be confronted with this self-worth thing that's been plaguing me forever. And it's heavy because the heaviness is the lie of the lack of self-worth that I've been functioning from. So then once I get clear on that, I'm like, the lightest thing for me to do is to go head on into the heavy. Sometimes the lightest thing for you to do is to go full on into the heavy. Because that's the change. Yeah, it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes you're like, whoa, okay, I would be confronted with all of that. Is there an easier way? And then you get a sense of something that's lighter. And you go, okay, well, I could choose. I have all these choices available. I'm just going to choose the lightest one. This one's the lightest one. I'm going to go there. Is there an easier way to have this change? Is there an easier way? And sometimes you're going to get no. Sometimes you actually have to get present with the thing that you don't want to be present with to have the change that you're asking for. And sometimes there's some heaviness along the way. So let's get curious. Get a sense of your universe with all this. How you make choices. Do you calculate? Do you tally? Do you do pros and cons? Do you avoid the judgment of other people? See, this is the avoiding thing. Okay, sometimes it's like you're not choosing something because you're literally just avoiding the judgment of your partner, your parents, your friends, the world. Well, if you live your life from the avoidance of judgment, then you're going to have to live in a cave somewhere. Judgment doesn't actually have any power over you unless you let it have power over you anyways. So what if you flip that? What if you change that? What if you were willing to actually address the heaviness? Again, it doesn't have any power. It's just like, oh, whoa, hey, that's pretty heavy. What is that? No conclusion about what heavy means. Again, heavy doesn't mean wrong. Heavy doesn't mean stop. Heavy doesn't mean danger. Oh, what is that? What is that heaviness? And just be present with it. See what awareness that you get from it. See what starts to show up. And you still might not make that choice. It doesn't matter. But what matters is that you're now starting to live your life from action, not from the reaction of avoidance. So if you have a reaction to heavy, then are you functioning from total consciousness? Are you functioning from awareness? Are you functioning from reaction that takes you out of awareness, takes you out of possibility? I notice, especially lately, when I'm reacting to something and I'll let myself have it for a minute, I'm like, oh, it's so gross, and then I'll stop and be like, okay, so what is that actually? So what is that? What is it that I'm calling gross? I named an energy gross. What is that? Oh, okay, cool. That's what that is. For me personally, when I started choosing from the action of what's going to create more for me now and for the future, I felt so empowered, probably for the first time. And what I used to do is I would just choose from, I lived in reaction all the time. I was reacting to the gaslighting from my husband. I was reacting to my parents. I was reacting to my friends. I was reacting to the world. Like everything was in a reaction, and I was constantly in fight or flight and trying to avoid pain, trying to avoid suffering, and trying to avoid the heaviness, essentially, and not recognizing how much power I was giving to all of that by my insanity of avoidance. And when I realized I could just like be really present and not be afraid and not avoid and just be like, oh, that's really heavy. What is that? What is that? Sometimes heaviness turns into a miracle. And sometimes it's just awareness of like, oh, that would not be fun. And that's okay. That's cool. That's awareness is beautiful and empowering. How do you choose? What have you been choosing from avoiding rather than moving to the lightness? So I actually had this, you could call it a colleague, an ex-business partner, really. And every time I would do a video or post something, I felt so much contraction and judgment and fear of how she was going to use this against me, and who is she going to show this to, and she's probably going to make fun of me with someone. And I started to go into like total avoidance, like avoiding, well, if I could just avoid being seen, because being seen was heavy, because then there was the judgment, right? And all judgments are lies. So judgments will always be heavy. So it's giving it so much power, and it's giving her so much power over my life, over my business. If I can't show up in my business, then how can I even have a business? I just wanted to kind of like curl up and hide for a while. Now I can look at that and go, oh, well, that's interesting. And yeah, she probably will do those things. And if someone is willing to hang out with her and like sit there and make fun of me, then why am I giving that power over the gift I came here to be? Over that one person that might watch that video and it changes something in their life. Like I'm making their meanness more valuable than consciousness. I made avoiding the heaviness more important than choosing the lightness. So if I had a video and it was so light to post, and then I go into the, oh, but I want to avoid the heaviness, I can't even sense that lightness to post. And I've had people reach out to me more times than I can even count, saying, oh my God, thank you for that video. Thank you for that Facebook Live. Thank you for that podcast. You changed my life. That is what's more valuable to me than any judgment I'm going to receive. That's true now. It wasn't always, but my priority is lightness now. It's not avoiding the heavy. I can handle the heavy. I empowered myself to handle the heavy, and I know you can too. So it can be uncomfortable to look at it, be uncomfortable, because if we're used to avoiding, that's our reactionary reality, and you stop avoiding, it can be uncomfortable for a little bit, but for most, it seems to kind of shift out. For me, it's more uncomfortable to avoid something now, because it's kind of like I'm pretending like I'm avoiding it, but I can't really be avoiding it. So it's as if I had something like talking in my ear, and it's really annoying. Then I'm just like, okay, I'm here. I will be present. I will look at this. What is this? I hope this episode contributed to you, and I hope that you can look at this a little bit in your own universe and wonder, how often are you choosing from, oh, that's really light? How often are you choosing from, oh, that's heavy, I want to avoid heavy? How often are you asking questions, like multiple questions about what choices you have available for more possibility in your life? You have so many choices. It's rarely ever just A or B. Sometimes you want to narrow down your choices, and you can do that. But also be willing to ask the question, well, what other choices do we have available here? Where's the lightness? And what if you were capable of going through any heavy situation if it was going to bring something greater? I'm not saying go for the heaviness. I'm definitely not saying that. But if you get a sense that if you go through it, you're going to have a breakthrough, you're going to have a transformation, like me going to that class and having some of the most dynamic change in my life. If I hadn't asked that question, gosh, I would have missed so much. Yeah, what if you can go through all the heaviness required and ask the questions to create more lightness? What's so funny is that if you're willing to go through the heaviness and your priority is the lightness, more and more and more the lightness shows up, and you so rarely even have the heaviness in your world. It's kind of the opposite of what you would think, but thank you again for being here. I'm so grateful for these episodes and exploring this conscious world with you all. If you like this, please feel free to subscribe, to like the video, share it with a friend. I'd really love to get these out there to the world. Thank you. Thank you for exploring the curious universe with me. Your curiosity matters. And what if together we could create a greater, more curious world?